Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
My name's Doug Edwards. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the ACT in the Southern New South Wales Rugby Union. That organisation holds the licence for the Super 15 team, the University of Canberra Brumbies, as well as the majority shareholder in the NRC team, the UC Vikings.
My name is Eden Campbell O'Brien and I'm a member of the Canberra Vikings National Rugby Championship squad.
I'm so fancy, you already know.
Rugby Union has embraced professionalism since 1995 and has expanded at the elite rugby level. However, much remains to be done to realise professionalism in domestic Australian club rugby. Does the second tier Australian Rugby Union requires much development, as this critical comment suggests? Document and comment on the changes undertaken in domestic rugby in recent times and comment on their success or otherwise.
Rugby union is one of the most popular sports in Australia. Back in 1864, the first Australian rugby union team was formed in Sydney. In August of 1995, rugby union was officially professionalised with the formation of SANSA, body that administers Super Rugby. Super Rugby competition is the only one professional competition in Australia of rugby union and was formed in 1996 with 12 teams from Australia, South Africa and New Zealand. And now, in the present, it is made up by 15 professional teams. In 2007, the ARU, governing body of the Australian Rugby Union, created a new tier with the purpose of forming a pathway competition that it could embrace elite players between the domestic club and the Super Rugby club competition to compete across the country. This competition was called the Australian Rugby Competition. Just after a season of ARU decided to dismiss the idea of continuing playing the ARC after revealing a loss of $4.7 million.
The main reason was the financial model. In 2007, there was no broadcast money coming in, and all the cost was left with the ARU, and therefore the teams were not in control of their own budget. They were just spending their money to get their team onto the ground and to be competitive. So there was no emphasis on each of the clubs to have a financial involvement. Now, whereas this model has a sponsor in Buildcorp, they have money coming from Fox Sports, and each of the teams are responsible for running their own budget and for making profit or managing any losses. So that way, each team has a focus on cost control and expenditure rather than just everything being picked up by the ARU. So I think this is a lot more financially stable model to operate under.
In 2013, the ARU announced the return of the second tier of the Australian Rugby Union, the National Rugby Championship, NRC, to be played in 2014, bringing along the side a new financial structure model, new rules and new policies to remain more sustainable in the future.
It's to give a second tier competition in Australia, a bit like the Carrier Cup and ITM, Carrier Cup in South Africa and ITM in New Zealand, where we don't have a second tier competition in Australia for players to be able to compete in and get noticed and to ultimately lead to getting Super 15 ready and Super 15 available for contract. So that's one level that we needed to have a second tier competition in Australia. The other level for the clubs in Australia is an opportunity to local rugby players to be able to be identified, to be able to improve their skills, to work in a high performance environment, and to be able to take that next step to be available for a Super 15 contract when positions become available. The NRC squads that, for example, if you take the University of Canberra Vikings, we have a squad of 32. In that squad there are 16 local players and 16 players contracted by the Brumbies. So it's a mix of professional and non-professional players coming together to form that team.
Obviously, a shortened season, that was probably the big one. So I think we only played 12 games this year compared to about 18, 19 in previous years. The points for a penalty has gone down from 3 points to 2. With tries also, the conversion's going up from 2 points to 3, so it's now 8 points for a converted try. Other laws, the line out, if there's a line out thrown in and it's uncontested, it doesn't have to be straight.
Yeah, I think it has, especially for us. Our attendances have been strong, our budgets have been, we're above budget in our trading. So for us it's been a very positive experience. We've engaged with our community partners, our sponsors have all come from local, which they haven't been sponsors of the Brumbies, but now they've engaged with the NRC team and given us an opportunity to get to a wider audience, and the fact that we've already contracted 2 local players and 2 others from other teams into the Brumbies in 2015, for us it's been a success. It's got a strong sponsor in Bill Corp as a naming rights sponsor. They have a broadcast arrangement, and they're getting a lot more media coverage, so I think it's a lot more robust and a lot stronger competition this year.
In NRC, it's not full-time pay. That is one thing that has changed from the previous competition. So it's just I think the Super Rugby players, that they're still on their base salary from the Brumbies, whereas club players are getting a small payment.
This model has a broadcasting arrangement with Fox Sports, where they broadcast 1 game each week on a Thursday night. So that has been enabled money to come into the competition to make it more viable. We still rely on a lot of volunteers. The administration of the UC Vikings team is done out of the Brumbies headquarters. There's a lot of people that we draw on to work on game day to be able to provide everything that's needed to put a team onto the field. Obviously financial. It's got to be financial for it to continue. But I think, I was talking to some of the key people at the ARU last week. I think the key thing that they're looking at is that actual pathway of people, players coming out of club rugby and taking that next step and to be putting themselves in a position to be able to be picked up by a Super 15 team. Instead of us having to look overseas and have to look further afield, we have a lot of talent here, and the NRC is exposing those people and giving us the opportunity to identify them. And each club has already started to contract players in for 2015 and even 2016 as a result of this NRC competition. I think it will. I think it's a strong competition. It's been embraced by each of the clubs. It's got a good following. We've had, in particular, strong uptake in sponsorship from local people here in Canberra. I think it will depend on the relationship with the broadcaster going past this initial 2-year contract. So far there's a deal being done with the broadcaster for 2014 and 2015. And I think if a review that will probably be undertaken during 2015 shows an appetite for the broadcast to continue to broadcast games and to put money into the NRC, I think there's a good future for it.
I think it all comes down to how sustainable it's going to be heading on into the future. I think obviously with the ARC in previous years going broke, and this is the NRC is in its first year, I think it's going to come down to smart decisions by the ARU, whether in terms of the financial side of things. I think the 1 game on Fox Sports, I think that's a really good initiative, and I think if we can in the future obviously try and have more games for fans and spectators to watch on their TVs, I think that'll only benefit the competition as well. So again, if it can be sustainable and obviously the financial side of things, if they can get that right, then I think the NRC has a bright future.
I think it's, at the moment, I think it's a sustainable model. There's obviously some tinkering that needs to be done, just maybe around some travel and some of the rules. This competition was pulled together in a very short time frame at the start of 2014, and I think there's going to be a lot of learning coming out of it. There'll be a review at the end of the season, and I'm sure that coming out of that review there will be a stronger platform for the competition to operate on, but at the moment it seems to be going pretty smoothly.
If the NRC organisations really wanted to become professional, there is probably a way that they could do so. With the extension of the broadcasting deals, along with creating relationships with the government to help subsidise the competition, and also increase fan loyalty, it does have the opportunity to become a professional sport. However, this is quite unlikely. Doug Edwards and Daniel Hooper, the Brumbies Rugby Development Manager, stated that the intent of the National Rugby Championship is to provide a second-tier competition for Australian rugby. It gives the opportunity for those players currently contracted to Super 15 teams in Australia, but not part of the Wallabies group, a chance to gain valuable match time experience. It also gives the opportunity for those players outside the Super 15 structure to become involved in a high-performance unit, to train and play with players from the elite level of rugby, and to have the opportunity to gain contracts with the Super 15 teams in the future. Given there is a focus on pathway for non-contracted players into the Super 15 teams, the NRC most likely will never be totally professional, as the squads will be made up of contracted and non-contracted players coming together to form the NRC.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,